Hello and welcome. I am so excited to be here with you, and I'm also grateful for this opportunity to connect with you today. And my name is Jana Masik. I am the host of podcast Powering Unique You, where I'm really happy to bring encouraging conversations together to help you advance in your career, expand your unique potential, and also for you to become a better leader. And today, I'm so honored to have a very special guest. This wonderful guest is a manager, global mobility and relocation at Campbell Soup Company, and also a veteran that has been with Campbell Soup for almost 34 years in different roles. Hello and welcome, John Ford. So happy to have you here.
Hi, Jana. It's so happy to be here. Thanks for taking the time.
Yes, John, I really admire, we've chatted a little bit before, I really admire your dedication and your career with Campbell Soup. And I would love for you to share a little bit of your professional experience and some of the maybe highlights with us, please.
Wow. So yeah, over 34 years, I've seen a lot. Certainly, I started with the company as an entry-level payroll clerk. Moved up through the payroll group, and then eventually moved into HR. Had roles in executive compensation and salary administration. Eventually was offered to take over the expat administration, which included U.S. immigration as well. And so I did that, and then after doing that for several years, about 7 years ago, we added domestic relocation to the role as well. So that kind of spans the 34 years so far.
That's a very, very unique experience. I admire you for being so dedicated to the company and also starting from the entry level, finding your way and growing into different roles, into different capacities, and finding ways to deliver value to the company. That's really admirable, John. And today, I know we've chatted before, and we decided to expand on this conversation on how to build meaningful professional relationships in today's world. And in our roles of global mobility, when we manage and moving people around, manage the programs, we are working with different types of vendors. And I would love for you to give us some insights on what it means to you to build relationships, meaningful relationships with the service providers.
Sure. Yeah, I would say certainly within an HR role, and I think in most roles in business, really, to be able to be successful, it is all about relationships. It's all about people. You need to be looking for the best for the people that you're serving, for your clients, but also in those vendor relationships that you have, you want to have a connection there, and you want to be able to build a level of trust with those partners. If you have a relationship with a vendor and it's not really a partnership, then I think what you're going to be able to accomplish for your company and for your clients is going to be limited. In order to really have a true level of success and to be able to have the best experience possible for your clients, you want to have that level of trust and partnership with the vendors that are serving your employees. Because in most cases, in the global mobility world, in many cases at least, you are not, as a global mobility professional, you're not having that day-to-day interaction in many cases with the employee, but rather it's your vendor partners that are having that interaction. So you need to make sure that you feel comfortable with who those partners are and that they are truly having the best experience, for your clients uppermost in their minds.
Yeah, so you've touched very, very good points on trust, building relationship with the trust that your vendor, your service provider will take care of your employees, particularly related to mobility. And from your experience, how do you see whether you can trust your provider or not? What does it take from your part to build these trustful relationships?
Well, I think in some regards it takes time. You have to see how interested the partner is in learning about your own program and your own culture of your company. And there needs to be an understanding and a desire on their part to really understand what your primary goal is as a company. You know, what's the company climate? What's the culture? What is most important to the company? And therefore, that way, that's the only way that the partner can really understand how they can best serve the company and you as the corporate client.
Yes, this is really good. And how did you find, John, from your experience, as you share the company culture and as you share, what's the vision of the company for the employee experience, from your years of experience, how do you see the service providers, the business partners have been adaptable and open to really be in tune and listen to this type of a intangible, in a way, requirements of company's culture?
Most of the partners that I have been able to work with, I would say, have had that same idea. Most of the partners have had the same desire to want to have that best experience, for the employees that they serve as well, because obviously that's a good reflection on them as well. Um, Sometimes, as you go through the relationship, um, sometimes you can just sense a bit of a disconnect, so to speak. I've had a couple of situations in my history where that has been the case, either from the way they were interacting with our employees, or perhaps sometimes the way they went about their business, that it just didn't seem to fit very well. And in those cases, had to have some conversations, with the account management team at those vendors to either have those individuals make a change to the way they were doing things, or in some cases actually switching out, some of the members of that team to have other people come in and people that seem to have a better fit, with us as a team, to really work as a team together.
Yes, this is important. I think that relationships is, in a broader way, is the personal connections.
Mhm.
And it's really, for me, is a desire to understand the other person's point of view. It's also being open and curious to see the perspective of other person. And I can see that sometimes the match of those qualities, or that somebody that on the team that is working with employees, may not be as open and may not flow well. And I know you and I touched a bit on it, is that it's not really about the company, if the company is the right fit or not, right? But whether it's a team is the right fit or not. And I would like for you to give some example, on that as well, that we've covered.
Yeah, so I've been in several, industry type of roundtable discussions, and someone may say, "Oh, well, I've had this experience with this particular company. I wouldn't recommend them." Um, but a lot of the vendors that we use in our industry, um, they all at the company level, many of them are, you know, they know what they are doing, and they are professionals, and the company is, the goals are aligned with our clients, and the goal is to provide the best service level. But sometimes it's not just about the company. It's not about choosing the right company as much as it is choosing that right team.
Mm-hmm.
That I've found that relationship is really about the day-to-day team that you have servicing your account, more so even than the company themselves. If you don't have a team, if you don't have that team of day-to-day contacts that are truly aligned with you, and that you have that personal relationship that you're able to build with them, and from interaction with them that they are just as concerned about having your employees have the best experience as you are. If you don't have that kind of a team working with you, then you're not going to be able to accomplish all you want to accomplish, for your company and for your clients. Um,
Yeah.
that's just really a critical piece. And I've heard some industry people talk about some of the relationship with their vendors. Sometimes almost in an adversarial type of way.
Mm,
And when I hear that, I just think that that is such a shame, because you're not going to be able to, have the success that you want. And if that's the relationship that you have, then perhaps you should look for a different vendor, or at the very least, go back to your vendor and ask them about the team members and give them that feedback. And perhaps you can swap out, some of those team members, so that you do have someone that you feel can be fully aligned from a relationship standpoint first with you, and then be able to work, better for your clients.
yes, this is really good advice, John. I like that. And I would love for you to share a little bit on how maybe your professional relationship and your effort in building those relationships have helped you to maybe relate to people in a little bit more of a personal way as well. And I believe those are intertwined. We cannot be just, all about business. There is some part of us that need to relate, and that's all about relationships, right? It's relating to someone.
Absolutely.
What is your takeaway on, in a way of mixing a little bit of personal, how open you are, how we talked about being trustful with
Mhm.
that type of a professional relationship to develop them solid.
Yeah, and I've always felt, even on a professional level with relationships, whether it be colleagues that you're working with on a day-to-day basis, whether it be vendor partners, it's always helpful, I feel, to have those conversations from time to time on a more personal level. Ask them about their families. And there's always water cooler chat. We always say, "Oh, hey, well, what are you doing this weekend?" Or how was your weekend? All of those types of things. And then it may seem small, but those types of interactions do help us with a more of a comfort level with those individuals. Again, whether they're coworkers or colleagues, or whether they are, those vendor partners. So yeah, it's just a matter of relationship. I think particularly in global mobility, um, this is a relationship business. It's a people business. We all do what we do in order to help that employee have the best experience they can have, whether that be on an international assignment, whether that be on a domestic move across the country, whether it be for someone coming into the US and needing work eligibility, through the visa process. All of those things, regardless of what it is, if you can show that concern for them on a more personal level, that can help them build that trust with you, and you with them, and for ultimately, more success in whatever the endeavor is that you're dealing with them on.
Yes, I like this advice is being being open to show your personality a little bit more, being also interested in other person's, not to know the entire life story, but just to know enough to be truly connected. And in relation to supporting the employees, whether, we are in a part of HR, mobility is typically a part of HR, and HR is human. As a humans, we are there to be empathetic, to truly support the employee experience through relocation, whether it's domestic or international, or just in general, the employee experience with the company, because that would also lead to, I feel, to the cultural adaptation with how the employee feel welcome within the company, how the employee feel encouraged and supported within the company by the company. So it's ultimately it is the fundamental is all about how much you care, how much you truly care, and how much you're truly willing to help. I really like this conversation, John. And I would say, is there any other advice that you give us or give our listeners on, how they can approach on building relationships and perhaps maybe overcome some of the challenges in their relationships,
You
professional
touched on
relationships?
a key term, and you mentioned empathy, and I think that really is a real key. Even in customer service studies, lately, that has become a big key. If you notice, when you call a utility provider, or you call your cable company, and any of those, after you have a call with them, you often get those questionnaires afterwards to find out how satisfied you were with your experience. And I've noticed that more and more, one of the questions on there is, did the person you talked to show you empathy for your situation? And just something as simple as that, particularly in the global mobility world, when people are moving, we know these life occurrences are stressful for people. Moving is always a stressful situation. Selling a home is stressful. Buying a home is stressful. Sometimes it's just a matter of someone just ask them how they're doing through the process, or asks them if is there anything that we can do to help you. One of the things that we have done at Campbell's with international assignments is at the completion to try to have a conversation with them about how did everything go when they repatriate. Was there anything that you felt like the company could have served you better with? Was there anything that you went through that you thought, boy, I really would have been nice to have more support here or there? And just a matter of asking those questions tends to, raise the level of trust and the level of relationship there, so that they understand, hey, somebody really does care about me and about how this experience has been for me. So I think empathy is a real key. If I boil it right down, it comes down to empathy being a big key.
Yes, this is wonderful. John, I really appreciate you joining today, sharing your insights and your experience. I think that this topic is right now in this times, challenging times. I feel a lot of people saying challenging times, but in this difficult, and times that we have not even foreseen a few months ago. I feel the relationships, the connections, the trust, the empathy is really need to be magnified. Is really something that we need to lean on to more and more. And what have been your experiences, in your role and maybe with some of the employees during this time that you see, that have helped you to maybe portray those things and help them through this time?
Yeah, well, these are certainly unique times, needless to say, and times that none of us would have ever anticipated. I have found that in many respects, even just with email communications, to start off those email communications saying, "Hey, I hope you are well. I hope you are, surviving these unique times, crazy as they are. If there's anything that we can do to help or to assist through these days, please let us know." But just that opening line to start a conversation with someone, with that, again, that empathy, to say, hey, we know things are difficult right now. Hope you and your family are safe and well. Just those little touches in communication, I think, can go a long way.
Yes, I agree with you, John. I agree with you. And any other final thoughts before we close out for today? Anything that you'd like to share with us?
I just appreciate the time that you've taken. Global mobility is certainly an area that is near and dear to my heart after all these many years. Again, it is a people business. It's a business about helping people through difficult times in their lives and in their careers. And if we can, as a group, kind of help people through that process, then we've gotten a little bit closer to success.
This is wonderful, John. I appreciate your insights and sharing your tips with us today and how to build more meaningful relationships with the vendors, with the employees, and I believe that by sharing our stories, by sharing our lessons, we can certainly encourage each other. We can certainly help each other to feel more empowered in making the difference in this world and make this world to be a better place. Thank you again for joining today, and I will see you next time.
Thank you, John.